You're listening to The Secrets of Star Trek, where we discuss the hidden layers and deeper meanings found in all the Star Trek TV series, movies, and more. And today we're discussing the animated series, episode Mud's Passion. I'm Dom Bettinelli, and joining me today on the panel is Jimmy Akin. Hey, Jimmy.
Howdy, Dom. Why do you say panel?
Did I say panel? It must be it must be the increased mavity in the room.
Okay.
It's usually a panel. Father Corey can't be with us today, but
who?
Father Corey.
Who's that?
Oh no, I'm in an alternate timeline.
Just thought I'd have a little fun with the Mandela effect.
Yeah, poor Father Corey. He's been erased from existence.
All because of the Time War.
And that's another show. But this time we're talking about Star Trek. Stick around to the end. We've got some listener feedback that we want to share to you. And I want to remind you to follow The Secrets of Star Trek in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, your favorite podcast app, or watch us on YouTube at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia, where you should also be sure to hit the bell to get notifications after you subscribed. And another show on the StarQuest Network you are sure to enjoy. If you enjoy this one, you'll love The Secrets of Stargate. You can find that wherever fine podcasts are found or at sqpn.com/Stargate. So here is Mud's Passion. Jimmy, can you give us a recap, which I'm sure will not be very long at all?
No, and I'm amazed they got a show done on a children's Saturday morning television cartoon called Mud's Passion, knowing who Harry Mudd was and that his first ever story on Star Trek involved space hookers almost.
Yes.
Well, this week, Captain Kirk and the gang are heading to a planet to arrest Harry Mudd. He's currently selling a fake love potion to a group of heavy metal miners. And after being taken into custody, Mudd gives some of the potion to Nurse Chapel to use on Spock. She tries it, but Spock is a Vulcan, so it takes him time to respond. Meanwhile, Mudd kidnaps Chapel and escapes in a shuttlecraft to a nearby Class M world. The drug is also released into the ventilation system of the Enterprise, leading people to fall in love with each other. Kirk and Spock follow Chapel and Mudd to the M-Class world, where they are menaced by giant rock creatures, but they use Mudd's chemical to make them fall in love with each other, and they escape. They've thus discovered that Mudd's love potion really does work, but when they get back to the Enterprise, they find people acting like they have hangovers and being really cranky. It turns out that the love potion has a side effect. Sure, it makes you fall in love with for a while, but then it makes you really angry at the person. So as Mr. Spock says, it's a few moments of love paid for by hours of hatred. The end.
So your overall impression of this one?
It was there.
It was very cringy, I have to say. Yeah, it was like you said, it's odd that this got onto Saturday morning kids TV in this form. I mean, I've seen other things that were more eyebrow-raising, like in an episode of Doctor Who from the early 1960s I watched, or the mid-1960s. One character had a line recently, it was set in ancient Greece, and had a line recently that was something like, "You make me feel as nervous as a bacchanate at her first orgy." And I'm like, whoa, this is family viewing in 1965? But this wasn't that bad. I mean, it's fallen in love, and it's not like how they would mess that up today. It's okay. They explain that Harry Mudd's love potion works. So it comes in these little crystals. You break open a crystal, you rub it into your skin, and then you touch somebody. If the person you touch is of the same sex, you become friends. If the person you touch is of the opposite sex, they fall in love with you. And that's as far as it goes. Yeah.
So, you've got, after it finally kicks in on Mr. Spock, he's like talking about Christine as his true love and stuff like that, but that's as far as it goes. So it's not over the line, when it comes to what's acceptable for a family audience.
Right. And it is funny. There was a moment where Kirk and Spock are like, they've both been infected, and they're like buddy arm in arm, like, hey pal. It was kind of funny there. So Mudd is played by Roger C. Carmel, returning for the third time as Harry Mudd. So they did bring back the original actor, which is kind of funny. Which is a distinction he only shares with two other actors in the original series, like guest actors. Mark Lenard being one of them. I forget who the third one was, but who came back recurring.
Yeah, but they're playing different characters. Here, he's always playing Harry Mudd.
Did Mark Lenard show up as Sarek more than once in the original series?
Not in the original series. He also showed up as a Romulan commander.
Yes.
And he also played a Klingon in one of the movies, I think.
Right. Yeah, I think the motion picture, he was the Klingon of the doomed ship in the beginning.
Yeah.
So they say that they're going to the Arcadian star system, and that just because
play some Pac-Man.
Yeah. Well, wasn't the Taste of Armageddon star system the Arcadian star system?
I don't pay attention to such things.
Okay. It's just because we just talked about it. I thought, that sounds familiar. But yeah. The thing that kind of gets me though is the love potions in the early 70s were cute and innocuous, and today it's a creepy date rape drug.
Yeah.
Enslaving people with a mind-altering chemical. And it comes across very differently today. It certainly did.
Apparently, ethics courses that Nurse Chapel went through are very different than the ethics courses I've taken regarding human research.
Yeah. The fact that she went for it. And that's the funny thing is to see, how the events of Strange New Worlds have completely upended anything having to do with Chapel and Spock and that sort of thing. Like this sort of thing has been thrown out the window completely.
They do though. Well, I don't know about that, but they one thing they do is they do gesture in the direction of this. What she's about to do is unethical. And her initial reaction when Mudd gives her the crystals is, I need to study these, to figure out how the drug works. And Mudd is like, oh, but studying them and subjecting them to tests will destroy their effect. You have to try it in person. And he pitches it as an experiment. And okay, even then, informed consent. But they do gesture in the direction of she's not just so hot for Spock that she'll do this no matter what. There has to be a process to get her into a position where she's willing to try this.
I mean, you can see here, probably more than in any other of his appearances, where Harry Mudd really is a really good con man, because he intuits pretty quickly how much Chapel likes Spock, and he really pushes it. So, in fact, in some ways, it reminds me of the Rainn Wilson Harry Mudd from Discovery, who was much more sinister than the Roger C. Carmel.
I know. There's the whole time loop episode with him where he repeatedly kills the Discovery crew over and over again for fun.
Yeah. That was an interesting incarnation of Mudd in that one, and so. This Mudd is kind of interesting in that way.
Yeah. By the way, there's another, and this wasn't ever, so far as I know, recorded, but there's another, they had in this time period, the 70s, a series of Star Trek novels that they were producing, and Harry Mudd features in those. There's a whole novel. So the first Harry Mudd episode was Mudd's Women, which is about the mail order brides, or if you want to look at it another way, space hookers. I prefer the mail order brides interpretation.
Let's do that.
And then they had the android one, iMudd.
Yep.
And now they have this, Mudd's Passion. There's also an early novel called Mudd's Angels, which I used to have it. I don't recall if I ever read it, but I assume it's in some way inspired by Charlie's Angels, which was a popular show at the time about a guy who was rich and had three beautiful, attractive female detectives working for him.
Right. It was, that's why I don't remember. I just looked it up. It was later reprinted as Mudd's Enterprise because either copyright reasons or, but it was actually just basically an adaptation of the two episodes, the live action episodes.
Oh, okay.
And then one original short story, a novella called The Business as Usual During Altercations, which is kind of funny. But yeah, so it wasn't anything new.
Yeah, well, it had a new novella.
Except that, yeah.
I'm surprised, though, that they had it printed that way, because I would think that Mudd's Women and iMud would have been part of the James Blish novelizations of the original episodes.
Yeah. It doesn't say. I mean, I'm sure it would say in the more information on the wiki page, so people can go look it up on Memory Alpha. But I read a lot of those James Blish ones, the original novels from that time. I was big into Star Trek novels at the time. Yeah, I had hundreds of them. They came out like every month at the time.
I didn't have hundreds, but I did read some of the very earliest ones, including ones like Spock Must Die.
Yep. And Diane Duane's early novels, like The Wounded Sky, were really good sci-fi. She had some really good ones, so there was some good stuff out there. You can tell.
So speaking of this episode,
I was going to say, you can tell we're vamping for time, but you go ahead. Speaking of this episode,
well, so they show up on this planet at the beginning called Motherlode, where there are heavy metal miners, and unfortunately, they don't like. It's not musical heavy metal, but that wasn't a thing yet. But this planet, Motherlode, we're told, does not recognize Federation law. So it's apparently not a Federation member. And they have this like mob of unruly miners who were there from different races, some of whom are very interesting, to look at. They're not all familiar races, but they don't recognize Federation law, which is why Mudd has come here to peddle his love potion. And when Kirk and Spock show up, he's like, Captain Kirk and the ineluctable Mr. Spock. And okay, ineluctable means unavoidable. The unavoidable Mr. Spock. Okay. And he has a demonstration because they can't stop him, from putting on his demonstration since there's no Federation law here. He brings this beautiful girl out on stage. This is effectively a medicine show. And so he's going to show the miners how the love potion works, and then they can purchase it for, I think he said like 300 credits a bottle or something, and go use it to do love potion stuff with. And so he brings this beautiful woman up on stage, and she is like, and it's voiced by
Majel Barrett.
And it's like, Harry, I've missed you so. I was so lonely for you, blah, 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 blah. And Spock just shoots the girl and with a phaser. And it's like out of the blue, zap. And the girl turns into this hideous, weird-looking creature, and we're told it's a Rigelian hypnoid that was projecting the illusion of being a beautiful woman. And so they use this to expose the con that Mudd is doing as part of his medicine show. And at that point, the miners turn on Mudd, and so that's how they get him taken into custody, is he now wants to go with them because Federation law is going to be kinder to him than what these miners are about to do.
Frontier justice.
Exactly. What I want to know is, how did Spock know that the woman was a Rigelian hypnoid? Because otherwise, if she's just some woman that Harry had used his love potion on, you just would have stunned a perfectly innocent woman.
It's just stunning. They stun people unconscious all the time. It was, and that's actually one of the scenes where I was like, wow, Saturday morning. Cause she was like, Harry, come back to the shuttle. Like they're not going to go, look at his etchings. You know what I mean? There's like, there was some suggestion in that. I'm like, wow, that's pretty racy for Saturday morning. It's interesting. There's a trope in this, which is the trope of the con man's fake product that actually works. I mean, you see that. I mean, that's got to come out of like Aesop's fables. I mean, it's an old sort of trope where I don't know if it's that old, but something along the lines of he's got this fake thing, this fake product, fake magical device. I think that's I'm trying to remember what it's reminding me of. But there's one where there's like a fake magic thing that actually turns out to be magical. There's a fairy tale with that, wasn't there? I forget what it is.
I know I've seen tropes like this before. Ironically, so we often hear about snake oil being a fake product. And it's true that snake oil was sold at medicine shows, and medicine shows were notoriously corrupt. You'd plant shills in the audience who would testify to the value of your product that you were selling, or they would appear to be suddenly cured when you give them a dose and things like that. At least that's how they're often presented in media. In real life, there was a product known as snake oil. It was called Clark Stanley snake oil, and it was sold as a health tonic. But the thing is, snake oil, Clark Stanley snake oil actually had ingredients with therapeutic effect. And so, despite its reputation as the ultimate con patent medicine, it actually could treat some conditions.
Oh, funny. By the way, I found the reference about Mark Lenard. It was also Stanley Adams who played Cyrano Jones. It's not that he showed up 3 times. It's that they both appeared. The only 3 actors appeared in both the original series and the animated series.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Because Mark Lenard does appear as Sarek in the animated series, and Cyrano Jones does appear in the animated series.
Right. And Harry Mudd and Cyrano Jones are so similar.
Yeah.
It was, I remember as a kid confusing them. So
except Cyrano Jones is more innocent and comedic, and Harry Mudd is more calculating and comedic.
Yes. So you mentioned
for people who may not remember, Cyrano Jones is the traitor in The Trouble with Tribbles who introduces the Tribbles and causes all the problems.
Yes. Yeah. You mentioned the aliens. They're Ursinoid, apparently, according to the
bear-like,
which I think is a really cool concept for an alien species. I mean, that's sort of what a Wookiee is, but something that's much more recognizably a bear. Because we often have lizard aliens, but a bear-like alien would be interesting. They should definitely bring them back in Star Trek.
Also, flying squirrel aliens.
That would be good. Watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
they have those in one of the Fleet of Worlds novels by Larry Niven and Michael Lerner.
Fun. That would be interesting. So watching the crew act like lovesick fools is fun. Spock it's interesting. I want to compare like the Leonard Nimoy lovesick Leonard Nimoy Spock and the Ethan Peck lovesick emotional Spock from Strange New Worlds. It's interesting to compare and contrast those a little bit, but Spock was amusing to see him, kind of mooning over her, over Christine, and in fact demanding to be let go on the away mission to rescue her, which is a ridiculous idea. But Kirk does point out, try and stop him. Like if anyone could get by everybody, it would be Spock. So that was interesting. You have McCoy.
No, he's single-handedly kidnapped the Enterprise before.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So he's like, I'll just go with him and keep an eye on him. McCoy is romancing a young crewman, at one point, boasting of how he's saved everybody at one point or another. And Scotty
and Maress are making eyes at each other
across the bridge. That one was amusing. You even have the transporter chief dancing with another crewman to some jazzy Alexander Courage theme. So it is the Alexander Courage Star Trek theme, but it's all jazzied up. So it was kind of funny to watch. I probably intentionally. I think it was they were having fun with it. So those were fun. But yeah, as you mentioned, when Love Potion number 9 wears off, it does cause the opposite effect, where they go from love to hate very, very quickly, which is, I don't know if that's a commentary on love in the modern age or not, but that's how it ended up. So that's at least as long of a discussion as the runtime of the episode. So any other notes, Jimmy?
Oh, I thought the rock creatures were cool. They're different. One of them looks more like an alligator, and one of them has kind of 3 eyes, and they're cool looking giant rock creatures that almost crush Kirk repeatedly.
Yes, they do. The 3-eyed rock creature kind of reminded me of a dune sandworm with arms. If you want to picture it, if you haven't seen it, folks. But that's what I thought of. But yeah. All right. So that's our discussion of Mudd's Passion. I did promise some feedback, so let's get to that. Our first feedback comes from our episode on Star Trek Insurrection. Hero Journalism on our YouTube channel writes, actually, the Baku leader played McCormick in Hardcastle and McCormick. Classic veteran actor Brian Keith played Judge Hardcase Hardcastle, the judge that sentenced the criminal McCormick into fighting crime in a kick-ass car. Father Corey had misidentified him as Hardcastle in that one. Brian Keith, for folks who have been watching or listening to Secrets of Star Trek, was recently in Deep Space Nine's Progress that we discussed a few episodes ago.
Yeah, but to me, he'll always be Uncle Bill from Family Affair.
That's right. Mrs. Beasley was the doll, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
And they sold a lot of those Mrs. Beasley dolls.
Oh, yeah. Merchandising. And then on our episode, on the TNG episode, The Big Goodbye, Brian, one of our patrons on Patreon, writes, for The Big Goodbye, I'm sure many people emailed you, but Sam Spade was the detective in The Maltese Falcon, not Philip Marlowe. Both were Dashiell Hammett characters.
They were both Dashiell Hammett characters, yeah.
Yep. So we stand corrected. Thank you both for those corrections and the feedback. So now we'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Star Trek, including John R., Ryan N., Colleen N., Tim M., and John P. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Star Trek and all the shows at StarQuest, and you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give and making a tax-deductible donation. We'd also like to thank Victor Lambs, who edited this episode. So that's it from us. What did you think of this animated series episode, Mudd's Passion? You can let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/trek, our Facebook page at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. Send an email to trek@sqpn.com or visit our Discord community at sqpn.com/Discord. You can watch The Secrets of Star Trek on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia and leave a comment there. And we'll be back next time for our 300th episode.
Woo-hoo.
And we have something special planned for that. We're going to be discussing the best Star Trek episodes ever. So we're going to talk about our favorite episodes of each of the series. So until then, Jimmy Akin, thank you for joining me and sharing The Secrets of Star Trek.
Thank you, and live long and prosper.
And once again, I'm Don Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Star Trek on StarQuest. And remember, to quote Spock, that is an astoundingly stupid idea.